Hey, if you're watching this podcast video on YouTube, and it's available on every podcast platform that exists in the world, be aware that this is a discussion like you would have at the hotel lobby bar after a day of being at a conference. So think maybe slightly inebriated, not or not, but it's mostly that you're feeling loose and relaxed and excited to talk about stuff. So that's the kind of conversation we're having. If you don't like that kind of conversation, what the hell is wrong with you? This is Reef Beef, baby. My name is Rich.
My name is Ben.
And on this episode of the Reef Beef podcast, the RBP, available wherever any podcasts are sold and bartered like NFTs, we're going to talk about who is the hobby. We're going to talk about our new channel on our Discord. We're going to talk about RODI, and we're going to have a Ask Reef Beef question that we're going to answer. So we'd like to thank saltwateraquarium.com, Champion Lighting and Supply, and PolypLab for powering this episode. This is Reef Beef. Ben,
Richard,
how was your reefing life?
Oh, just craziness.
Yeah? What crazy happened this week that you want to share with the peeps?
Crazy thing that happened this week.
It doesn't have to be crazy, just something that you're interested in. I mean, excuse me, crazy is great, but don't put pressure on yourself, man. It's not like it's all about blood and feces. It's not all blood and feces.
Does it have to be about reefs, or can it be like about anything?
No, it's a reefing show, so it's got to tie back somehow. I mean,
it could be aquarium maintenance.
That's reefs. Because I mean, okay. I tied Tropic Thunder back into the show. I didn't.
Low bar.
Yeah, no. It's like you're not a guest on this show, man. You know how this works.
So I clean. Well, this isn't exactly about reefs, but it's aquarium maintenance. So this morning I cleaned an aquarium. I had someone contact me and said, "Can you clean this aquarium?" So I said, "Send me pictures of the system and send me your address, and then I can give you a quote." So he sent his pictures, and it's just a dinky freshwater tank. And I was like, and so I want to make a point of this because as a business, this is something I do. There's this idea that something is below you. If you're a business, go clean things. Okay. It's not. So let me be clear on that. If it's a hunk of junk aquarium and it's not going to do what the client thinks it's going to do, and you just know it's not going to do that, then don't get involved in that. But if it's like a simple system, they just want a one cleaning, one and done, whatever, it's not beneath you. Just come up with a price. Maybe what I do is set it a little high because you sort of want them to say no because you don't want to be messing with that stuff. But if they will say yes to that price, then who cares? I mean, make it a win-win, you know?
That's what I used to do when I did maintenance and when I did juggling. It was... Yeah. I have to feel like I'm not pissed off when I leave the house to go do the gig.
Yes. And especially if you know it's going to be a rough gig or you're not feeling great or whatever, you come up with a number like this is going to make it worth my time. And then that's what you do.
Right.
So I saw it was like a 15-gallon freshwater.
Whoa.
And I was like, look, for my base price, for me to get up and do anything, it's like $150 an hour.
No, it's like $4,000.
It depends. But so I told this guy, I said that one is $150 cash. Anyways, he agreed to it. So I was like, okay. So that was this morning. So I get there and the guy I'm not going to make any comments about the dude, but he's living in I think he said his stepdad's house. But so I go in the door and there's blood and feces on the floor, over the floor. Wait, I just said I'm not going to make a comment about the guy, and then...
You said I'm not going to make a comment about the guy, and then you made a comment about the guy. And before the show, you said you're not going to talk about blood and feces. So that's why I'm talking about blood and feces in the intro, just for you and me. And now you're talking about blood and feces. I love your squirrel brain.
Well, you don't know what ride you're going to get.
But clearly.
No, I thought about it and I was like, I got to talk about the blood and feces.
Because it's so hot. It happened today. See, I don't even know the end of the story. I saw this is in the members section of our Discord. You were posting about this, right? And I wrote you wrote like 5 paragraphs, and then I wrote you had me at blood and feces, and then he wrote 5 more paragraphs, and then I said this blood and feces thing better pay off, and then I don't know if it did or it didn't. So I'm
you didn't read it yet?
No, so I'm gonna try to just listen now.
Oh, dude, I made up you have to go in the Discord. I made up a story and I said it was explicitly for you. So anyways, I walk into this house and there is literally like tracks, like footprints of blood and feces on the floor. But you know, man, when you do this for a living though, and you go into people's houses, you do see strange things, and you just sort of learn to like roll with the punches. If you're comfortable with what you see, you just keep moving.
And you're comfortable with blood and feces.
You know what?
Are we going to name this episode Blood and Feces?
Blood and Feces. We should have put this at the end, because then someone's going to have to watch the whole episode to understand what the hell this episode has to do with bloody feces.
I love the idea that you're comfortable with blood and feces.
This is
for 150 made up dollars.
150 simoleons. Yeah. But you know, so I'm looking at it, and I you know, for a second you're like, what's up with the blood and feces? But I'm like, Ben, just keep rolling.
What?
So I was like,
no, that's not how the world works.
That's how my world works.
That's like a Texas thing. I guess it's a Texas thing.
What do you want me to do? They open the door and I see blood and feces, and I go, thank you, and just walk away.
So, oh, I'm sorry. Is that blood and feces? Maybe I'll come back when there's not blood and feces.
But also, for me, it's awkward to point it out, because it was tracked all around the room.
Was it dog feces?
Well, hold on. Don't get ahead of my story.
I'm getting ahead of myself. And I also said I would shut up, and I have not shut up.
You're just excited.
Sorry. You have made the call that the amount of blood and feces is acceptable to you for the amount of money you have charged. Okay. All right.
So he goes, there's the aquarium over there. And it is in between the wall and his dirty, smelly, musty bed. I'm not joking. It's in between the wall and his bed. So it couldn't be in a more awkward place in the room than possible. And so I go, okay. So I walk over there, and I'm not embellishing any of this. I'm walking around his bed and over to the aquarium. Blood and feces all over the floor. Still, it's not a particular area. And so I go over to the aquarium, and the first thing is part of the lid is jammed into the drywall. So I immediately sort of finagle it, and I pulled it out of the drywall. I'm not sure what was going on there, but it was stuck into the drywall. And it was a mess. It was a little, it was a Fluval Evo 18. I have too many details.
I love that. That's what makes this an Aquarium Idiot Nerds podcast, is that we're worried about the bed and the wall and the blood and the feces, but we want to know the make and model of the Fluval.
Yes. These details are important. And so I asked him, I was like, well, so when I do the water change, it's like, where am I going to get the water from? Do you have a spigot outside? And he goes, oh, come here. And he's in a part of the house where it has a bathroom attached to it. And he goes, you can get the water out of the bathroom here. So I go in the bathroom, and this is this is where the blood and feces came from, because it is more in this room than anywhere else that I've been so far. And okay, so fair enough. This is where I drew the line, because I looked in that room and I said, I'll get it from outside. And he was like, okay.
There was just a bathroom. This was a bathroom?
Yeah, I guess.
Blood and feces?
That's where blood and feces, blood and feces is indigenous to bathrooms.
It's endemic. Was it like spatter patterns or like drips of blood, or?
Well, then I started realizing, because it looked like dog scampers.
Oh, so they like tore a nail or something?
I guess so. And thankfully, at about that time, like a husky comes into the room, and I'm petting him, and he's sort of growling at me, but I don't care. I'm a dog person. I keep petting him. And I was like, okay, blood and feces, dog, scamper. Okay. I mean, maybe this sounds stupid, but I'm not a little dude. So I think to a certain degree, some people would just see blood on the floor and be like in fear for their lives. But to me, that's just Monday.
That's just Monday.
That's just Monday. But so I'm like, okay. So anyways, I go and I clean this aquarium and it was filled with algae. And I said, hey, how often do you run the lights for? And he goes, oh, I don't turn them off. And I'm like, okay, that's where because he's like, how do you get rid of the green stuff? And I'm like, well, you don't leave the lights on all day. And then, so we tackled that one. There was no heater. I said, you're trying to make this a tropical fish tank, so you need to get a heater. And he was like, where do I get that from? So I was just like trying to cut to the core real fast now. And so I'm standing in front of him. I just look on Amazon and I choose like Shenshu 50-watt heater. And I'm like, just get this. I mean, it matches the other stuff that the blood and feces and the whole scenario.
No, it's not one of the Siche new
try Siche
with the scuba. Yeah, right. Yeah. No, this is just some fucking heater.
I'm like, please, here's a heater, bro. Just put this on. And so I forward him that. And then and I said, what fish store do you go to? And then this was weird. So he said, well, I go to this one fish store that I know of near here. And he goes, well, how about like next time I go, I'll pay you 30. I don't even know where this number comes from. He said $35 if you meet me there and help me choose what to get.
Now, is this 35 real dollars or is this 35 Ben made up dollars?
This again, wink, wink. This is 35 Monopoly dollars. No,
but it's less. It's oh, okay. That is, it was 35.
35 bucks.
Okay.
And I'm just like, 35 bucks to meet you at a store, and they have their own salesman there. It's like, I sort of shook my head. I didn't exactly commit to it, which I guess a head shake is a commitment, but I was like, oh, okay. Anyways, I cleaned the aquarium and everything like that, and it was weird. I don't know if something was wrong with the dude. He spoke clearly, but it was just very weird. I did the best I could. I told him the best that I could. He said something like, I had this, he called it which is funny. If you'd work in a pet store before, you've heard someone say chicklid. And so he did that whole thing. He said, I put an African chicklid in there and it didn't last very long. And I was like, it's funny. A long time ago, a store I worked at, I corrected someone and I said, it's cichlid. And they got pissed off at me. And ever since then, what I do is I'll just turn around and then wait and use it in a sentence. And that's my way of correcting them, is to just say it correctly. So, because I said, yeah, or African cichlids, like you have to be like, they're very territorial and they're much too big for this tank. You need to stick to, small tetras and whatnot.
I think you'd make more money if you called them chicklids.
Chicklids.
Just agree with it.
Allergy eaters.
Just agree with these people. They don't care. Yeah, chicklids and tetras.
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 Tetras. Y'all got any of them allergy eaters?
Allergy eaters that are taking over the world? Did you see that video I linked?
I didn't. Why am I not watching any of your stuff?
It's all in the member section now. It's they're blowing up. They call them, this is a story within a story within a story. They call them the devilfish in Mexico. Like 20 years ago, they weren't being caught at all. And now they're like 70% of their catch. Whoa. And no one would eat them or anything like that. So a company is now, and they're catching them, is making dog and cat treats out of them. But they've totally destroyed, they're 70% of the catch now. And they were 0% before. And this is also happening in some places in the States. So
that's what we're getting to ecologically now, is the stuff we were trying to pull out of the nets. Now we're like, okay, let's figure out something to do with this, because this is all we're catching.
It's fertilizer, and people won't eat them because they're scared of them, because they also are getting the meat off of them is terribly hard because their skin is so brutal. Okay, but I'd like to go back to a song of blood and feces.
Well, but I don't want to overplay it, because
you don't want to overplay it. Yes, you do.
Not much else happened after that. I collected my money and I said, all right, man. And he clapped me on the back and said, thanks, dude. and I was, but that's sort of what you run into when you're trying to start this as a business. Now, I've been doing this for a long time. I just saw a quick buck I could make, but if you gave me a time machine, would I redo it? No, because I got paid.
So you're going to the store with them?
Man, I don't know that.
It's a bit. You're gonna make $35.
That's like 4 trips to Taco Bell, and then a trip to the hospital after 4 trips to Taco Bell.
Presumably, there's no blood and feces at the store.
Maybe at Taco Bell. Wait. I guarantee you there's blood and feces on the floor at Taco Bell.
Okay, but you're not going to Taco Bell, you're going to Petco. Okay. Same thing.
I did my good deed. I collected my money. I'm not going on a double date with this guy to the fish store.
Can you
$35?
Can you try to make up a story that our viewers and listeners would an ending to this story? I guess that's what you did. Is that what you did in the Discord? Yeah, make the blood and feces pay off, even if you're just making it up. You got in like 2 minutes.
So you had to read it in the Discord in the member section, but in the Discord I said, because you said, "Oh, if this doesn't pay off, I'm going to be pissed." So I guess you didn't read it yet, and so I was like, "Okay." I said, "This part's for Richard." I said that an alien landed in his front yard that looked like a butt, and he shot feces and blood everywhere, and I got abducted, and I'm on a planet Zingu 123, and I need a ride home.
Okay. The thing about that story is how you sold it.
Yes. You know how many bodies you can fit in this baby?
So the moral of the story is
do whatever for money.
Get your money.
Get your money and get out of there.
Oh,
and if it looks like a crime scene, maybe be smarter than me and don't even cross the threshold.
I love it. And that's what this show's all about right there. We could just end it.
What would you do for money?
What would you do for money?
saltwateraquarium.com.
Yes, saltwateraquarium.com is a sponsor of this episode, and we like them very much because they've supported us for a very long time. We bought stuff from them before this podcast even existed. And why are they so great? Why do we like them? Well,
because they have 1, 2, 3 locations across the continental United States that they send your stuff off to you.
Yeah. And we also like them because they're just selling stuff. So if they're not evil in the world, we're totally happy with them selling stuff. It's not like if they were selling some horrible thing and lying about it to make money. No, they're just selling products. They're great. We love them. And they love us.
It's late stage capitalism, Richard.
Oh, it's freaking first stage capitalism.
Yeah.
Yeah. They've got an app. We like their app here. Because sometimes when I'm in bed naked, I order.
I always order naked.
Octopus. Yeah, they got all kinds of stuff here. It's very cool.
They have online resources with articles and they have an online forum. They have discounts for, frequent buying discounts. They have discounts for different jobs you may have, like military discounts. They have I think they still have healthcare people discounts.
Yep. They also have, this thing is really cool. There you go. I'm holding that right up to the screen. That's the octopus cabinet. So that's a cabinet for your controller equipment, and it looks like an octopus, and that's really cool. Here's another side of it there.
That is an octopus cabinet.
Pretty cool. It's called the Poseidon edition. It is. That's what it's called.
The Poseidon Adventure.
No, the Poseidon edition. That Poseidon Adventure ended terribly. Yeah, so you can get some informational videos from Lord Callahan. You can see saltwateraquarium.com at any show you go to. They're nice people, so and they're nice to us, and we appreciate that. So go check them out. Use our link below.
So Richard, what very interesting happened to you in your reefing adventures.
Oh, well, thanks for raising the bar there on it. Actually, it was a good, busy week. There's a couple things going on because the spawn is coming up, right? So, I have corals from 2020 that should spawn, which is why behind me they're already closed up. But the corals, the new gravids I was getting, I don't have yet. There was some weather problems and there's some boat problems. And so I'm nervous now because we're not sure when the spawn is supposed to be. If the spawn is going to be in November, I'm pushing it, shipping these things that close to the spawn.
Wow. You're going to be like, get them and then spawn.
They might get here after the full moon.
Oh, shoot.
But if they go in December, that won't be a problem. So we don't know. I mean, things happen. I'm just really glad that I've got the corals that I've been growing out. And I know they're different genotypes from 2020 that, you know, they're about 2 hands big now, some of them. And those should spawn. And they've been on they were from Palau originally, but they've been on the GBR schedule for 1.5 years. So fingers crossed there. So been prepping all of that. You can see here over here on my right, I built a whole rack for spawning this year for lava, we're out and grow out. And I've been thinking and thinking and thinking about it. You know how you do that before you do a build and you draw it out and you think about it some more. Then you go to bed and you let your brain relax. And then you look at it again and you keep incrementally making changes to it until you finally go, I haven't thought of anything new, you know, and it was like, where am I going to put the apex components? Where am I going to put the, you know, how am I going to do all the little bits that need to go in the programming? And then over the last couple of days, I just did it. So it's double-decker thing. It's after the spawning, I'll do a thing where it'll be more available. But if you're interested in this stuff, we're trying to make the membership useful instead of just giving us money because you like us. So in the membership Discord, you get the stories like blood and feces and also the details of what we're doing. So I built all this and it's working exactly like I wanted it to. There's a dose pump and it's getting about 20,000 milliliters a day through it. I'm using a PMUP as a circulation between the two bins. It's about 14 gallons in each bin. It looks like I'm only going to need 1 heater, which is awesome. And I'm using pumps to make the water go up and down to bounce the babies gently as they develop.
And the LSS?
It's tied into the main system. So the dose pulls water out of a system, goes into the larval system, and then the dose pulls it back out and puts it back into the regular system. So on spawning days, you know, I can crank it up and do 100,000 mil a day, keep that water really clean. So I'm pretty excited. It all seems to be working out. The coolest thing is it's on wheels, so I can turn it. I'll show you this. So
wait, you just said, so can a dose, an apex dose handle 100,000 mils a day?
I think the max is 140,000 mil.
Wow.
You just need to have enough time.
Okay.
But you can see the top of this, right?
Oh yeah.
Look. And now.
Oh, cool. You can move it around the room.
I turn it like that. And now I'm in between the spawning tanks and the larval system, and I have this other little thing, the other moving table, so I can have all my work right here instead of running around the room.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited about it.
You're evolving.
And you'd like how I set it up too, because all the cabling comes down one side and it's all bound into. But this is necessary because this thing's moving around.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't want the dose lines to pinch.
Yeah.
Or anything like that.
Like running the wheels over them or something like that.
Yeah. Because that would be terrible. But one of the things I wanted to ask you about was I was setting up 2 inkbirds on this system as on fail safes for the apex. I use the apex to be the heavy lifter for my heating because it's much more accurate, and especially in this system where the spawning has to change throughout the year. I don't want to go and press buttons every time I want to change the temperature. Yeah. But you asked a question and I was unsure of what your question was.
Well, because and not out of knowing any better, but so on my several systems out there with Apex on it, I have it set up the opposite, where I'm having the Inkbird doing the heavy lifting and the Apex just watching it. But like I said, that's not because I'm like, oh, I know better than this. That's just the way I set it up.
Yeah.
So someone was asking you about that, and I was thinking that it might be smarter for me to have the Apex playing the main role, and then the Inkbird, you know, holding up the slack behind it. But you were going to do some programming, so I was just letting you know that I was interested to see what that programming is.
Okay, well, I think you get more control if you let the Apex do the heavy lifting, because that's what it's for. People this mind story idea that, you know, if you make an Apex outlet do that heavy lifting, it'll fail. But, you know, I just found out that my calcium reactor, so the switch to turn on the CO2 was triggering like 500 times a day.
Wow.
Because it just did it. And that's how the pH was being controlled in there. I balanced it now. So it's triggering like 8 times a day now.
But I don't know. So I could see like an engineer going, no. So I think, so duty cycles.
Yeah.
Something turning on and off.
Yeah.
I think it matters what that piece of equipment is for you to think about those duty cycles. I had a long conversation with a aquarium heater manufacturer guy once, and he was, you know, because I was complaining about heaters, but he was sort of giving me the nitty gritty, like, hey, this is exactly how a heater works. And so, and that's why no one gives a real long warranty and why heaters can be problematic. It's because the amount of like voltage that's going through them. And then the duty cycles of these little switches, whether they're, you know, I don't know much about them, but there's some switches that are like metallic and some that are, I don't know, piezoelectric. Maybe
some are made from alien bones
and feces and feces and blood, triggered by blood. But you know, so like a magnetic solenoid, like on a RO unit,
yeah,
or like a CO2, like magnetic solenoid could probably have like a shitload more duty cycles than like whatever causes an Inkbird or Apex to turn on and off your heater.
Yeah, and sometimes some solenoids, if they stay on, they get really hot.
Okay.
So you want them to come off as well. But the duty cycles for the Apex switches in their outlets, in the EB832s and the EB8s and the EB4s, they're rated for millions of cycles. That's what they're for. I mean, you don't want to set it for a 1/10 of a degree. I mean, it's the same reason why I don't want my calcium reactor cycling as 500 times a day. It's just extra. It's extra work for the device to do.
But
right?
That's the trick, right? That's the trick. Like with setting a calcium reactor, it's like, how can I set this up so I don't tax the hell out of the equipment, but still achieve the results that I'm looking for?
Right. And you want to use the equipment. The thing I hate people to get is that they should be scared of using the equipment for what it's designed for.
But that's like, not like I know, it's my clientele. That's like buying a Ferrari and then being afraid to drive it. It's like, the fuck are you doing? Drive the thing.
Right. Now, could it break? Yeah. But I mean, you know, Inkbirds go bad too. And you don't hear people going, well, you know, don't use it, you know, too many duty cycles.
Inkbird $45 versus, you know, the Apex.
Well, just some one outlet goes bad, switch it out. Don't use that outlet.
Can you get Apex to send you a new just outlet? And is that something Joe Blow?
Probably not. I don't know. Nobody. Well, see, there you go. That's how rarely it happens.
Oh, okay.
If it was a thing, I mean, somebody would have figured out how to DIY that, but it's just not from what I can tell, it's just not an issue, right? I mean, there's the power supply issue in some of the older models of the EB832 that you can look up online very easily and get the $12 part or $25 part and fix it, right? Or send it back to Neptune and they'll fix it for you, or send it to Harry or
Telegram.
Or yeah, Jim's gonna love that. Yeah, send all your stuff to Jim, he'll fix it.
Well, he'll charge $150.
And fill it, pack it with blood and feces.
Yeah.
But there's no, here's how you replace the outlet. There's no, I've never heard of that.
The company would be like, don't.
Well, the company would be like, don't do that. Yeah. But the company was like, don't change the power supply out either. And they're, so you understand both directions. My point is, it's a fucking mine story, right? If it wasn't a mine story, we'd be inundated with videos on how to replace the relay in the switch, in the outlet. And we're not. So I think it's...
Have you, because you're on the boards more, have you heard of EB832 blowing out the heater outlet from someone's heater going on and off a million times?
No, but I have seen and experienced some outlets go bad.
Yeah, I have too.
And so what do? I have a big deal and I don't use that outlet. I
had a client that like lost an outlet and then a couple days later lost another one, then a couple weeks later so then we switched to something else. But
yeah, that sounds like there's an issue going on.
It was a little old. It might have been like 6 or 7 year old.
I was looking at one of my EB8s, which has got to be from 2014, and it's got 2 bad outlets. It says bad outlet, don't use.
Maybe someone disagrees with me. You got 9 years out of that. Like, what else do you want?
Right. And I want to replace them all with the EB832s anyway, because I find the power monitoring interesting. That's a calcium reactor story I could tell you. So anyway, I think that's mine story should die. If you want to use, just to answer your question, so let's say you've got the apex set to run your heater between 77 and 78 degrees, right? You just set the inkbird to 80 degrees. So that way, if the apex fails on, which is rare as well, that doesn't happen almost ever. Once the temperature gets to 80 degrees, the inkbird will shut the heater off, even though the apex is never turning off. It's just doing the opposite of what you're doing. It's just the opposite. There's nothing.
Wait, and then let's think of this. Let's say, well, I've never heard of one shutting off, you're breaking on either. But let's say it would have your heater go runaway, and then the inkbird would. Well, so the inkbird doesn't shut anything off. It sends an alarm if it goes that high.
No, if it gets to, so your apex is powering the inkbird.
Yeah.
The inkbird is powering the heater. If the apex is on, it still goes through the inkbird. So if the inkbird stays on, it's only going to heat the water, in my example, to 80 degrees, and then it will shut the heater off. So it won't go hotter than 80 degrees.
Yeah.
And you'll get an alarm or whatever if you want to.
Yeah.
If the power goes off, the power's just off. That's a whole nother issue. But
that makes sense, because I wonder, I have no way of knowing, but that would be interesting, like technically what is capable of more duty cycles. Because if you're relying on the inkbird, you might be relying on the more inferior product to do all that shit.
And the differential on the inkbird's like 1 degree. Right?
Well, no, there's the Wi-Fi one that does 0.5, I believe.
Oh, does it? Okay. Yeah.
But then here's my question on that is, now we've got cool equipment that can close that band down. My question on that is, aren't you just making the duty cycles go crazier to achieve?
Yeah. Well, it's always been best practice not to make the duty cycle crazy.
Yeah.
Right. Just like with the calcium reactor I was talking about. So in the spawning, I want it to be pretty accurate.
Yeah.
So I think it's like the plus and minus is like 0.3. Right. But that's still not happening super fast.
Yeah.
You know, I think 0.5 is plenty, and usually 0.1 is plenty. But if you're doing 0.1, you might as well let the apex do it. And then, you know.
Well, and honestly, with my experience with my reef aquariums out there, I can, you know, at night I go and look at them on Apex. And it's like, honestly, during the course of a day, even a 1, even a 2-degree drift up and down seems to do nothing.
Yeah. So I guess the answer is you could do it whichever you want the fallback safety to be, you know, the on safety. If you want that to be the apex, or if you want that to be your external controller, it don't matter none.
And realize that the apex should be totally capable of controlling.
Absolutely. And when I want to change the temperature, I find it much easier to change it through Fusion for the apex than to press buttons. You know, I usually have these things like stuffed up in the top of the stand anyway. I don't want to look at that stuff. That's the whole point.
Well, if you're like me and you're not there, like, then I can't really, I can turn the Inkbird on and off, but I can't affect the temperature.
Right. So if the Inkbird has gone nuts, you can't do anything about it.
Who watches the watcher?
Exactly.
Champion Lighting and Supply is the best place to go.
Here, I hold in my hand from Champion Lighting and Supply, the only place you can get Reef Factory stuff. This is their smart feeder. It's
not the dumb feeder.
No, it's a smart feeder, and it's got their app, which they're updating. But check out that feeder.
Ooh. Oh, wow. That's cool because it looks very much like another type of feeder, but different colors.
And it's got a plug, so you can plug it in. And it does all the things. It's got a tank mount, and it's got every kind of plug you could ever use. So that's kind of cool. Yeah, the Reef Factory stuff, all the Reef Factory stuff I've used so far, I like a lot. I love that TDS meter. I found out where the graphing function is. I love the secret thing I can't talk about a lot, and they're updating their app, so things should get even better. So check out Champion Lighting and Supply for other kinds of aquarium supplies as well, but also for the Reef Factory stuff. Right, Ben? Take us home.
Champion Lighting and Supply is your favorite place to go.
Just a quick calcium reactor story. My circ pump, my recirc pump, turns out was getting goofy, and I found that out through power monitoring. Actually, I found that out by going down there and looking at the impeller and going, oh, that's hot and swollen. So I swapped out the pump, and then I went back and looked, and you could see it getting 10 more watts. So that might have been part of the reason why it was calling for so much CO2, because it wasn't circulating the CO2, recirculating it through the media as well as it should have. Yeah, so Apex is like, there is so much it can do, but you got to learn it. You know, I'm just starting to look at the power monitoring and the power alarms and going, oh, this is a really good use. If this recirc pump should be at 50 watts, and if it goes to 60 watts, I want to know, because that means something goofy has happened. So,
I mean, it's like any other piece of equipment. It is sort of, you know, it can technologically make you feel like a failure. At least it does to me sometimes. But, you know, if you want to get the most out of it, you ought to really learn it, because, and I see those Neptune Apex boards like on Facebook. And it's funny because people go on there and they're like, man, is this thing a piece of crap or what? And people have to let them know, like, you're seeing this board where people complain and they're trying to get something fixed. Like, no one posts on here and say, hey, day 348, it's Tuesday, nothing bad happened. You know, so you're seeing these concentrated complaints.
Well, that leads into two other things we wanted to talk about. Who is the hobby, Ben? You wanted to talk about who is the hobby, right? That's a perfect example of it, right? The hobby is everyone on the Apex forum who's complaining about Apex. No, that is not the hobby, right?
So I guess I get this because, you know, we're all involved in, or not, but we're all involved in different aspects of the hobby. So I have conversations with people and then they sort of argue with me. And I feel like some of these people think that the width and breadth of the hobby is people that they are bumping into on social media. But in my line of work, you get some of that, but generally, I don't go for clients that are hobbyists. That some of them, and I don't mean this derogatorily, but like a failed hobbyist. But then they found me and I do it, and that's fine with them. But or when you work at a retail store and the people just coming in, like I am convinced, of course, I have no way to know these numbers, but I'm just convinced that the bulk of the hobby are these people you're never even going to meet on a Facebook forum, on a specific like chat board or forum thing, or on our Discord. These are people that sort of care more to dig and do more, studying and this and that. But I'm telling you, as someone who used to work at stores for 10 years, the bulk of the hobby are just people just phoning it in and throwing darts in a dark room. And, so when we have a conversation and someone's like, oh, well, I think the average hobbyist is much more blah, blah than that. It's like, no, because I've worked at places where the bulk of that hobby comes in and asks me questions, and they didn't even know that believe it or not, there are people that don't even know where to get information from, or they're not motivated or whatever it is. It's just the bulk of the people are out there saying, how come my Oscar ate my betta? Or why can't I keep this anemone? Well, first of all, they can't say anemone. No, I'm being mean.
No, they can't.
Why can't they say this, keep this anemone under this, regular output bulb? Or so that is most of the hobby is just these people sort of, they want to get into it, but you got to realize, I guess it's like a sporting thing, like boxers, like these are the really good boxers and the rest of it is, all these other people. So in the hobby, the people we bump into on forums, on social media, and asking questions and giving advice, that's this little chunk of the hobby. There's just all this rest of the hobby right here. There's just people phoning it in at fish stores and stuff.
I agree. I wrote an article, and I can't remember what it was called. It's not a skeptical reef keeping. I'll have to look it up. But that talked about, the hobby isn't who you see on your forum or in your group. That isn't the hobby. That's a tiny slice of the hobby. The rest of it is exactly what you're saying. The bulk of the hobby, people don't they just want a pretty animal and they're in it for 18 months or whatever. So don't make the mistake. And that's also what you see on forums, is people thinking that. So I use I'm into Zeo, right? I have a Zeo tank. So I'm in the Zeo group. And I spend 90% of my time in the Zeo group.
This is fictitious, by the way.
Absolutely. I had to not say one that's kind of live that I'm thinking of, because I don't want to. Yeah. I don't want to bring reality.
Yeah.
Reality into this.
Zeovit, so a passe.
There's one of these going on right now where it's like, dude, you spend all your time in that group. The world is not that group. The examples, in the Zeo group, it's like, and then they keep posting pictures of great looking tanks with Zeo. It's like, yeah, there's great looking tanks without that. It's the people you hang out with is not everyone.
That's the opposite of the thing I was just saying about
is it?
the Neptune complaint thing. So that's the opposite. So if you have a Zeovit thing and you see all these great tanks, which, you'll get me saying like the great tanks that you see there are the 15 people in the world that are only having success with that. And they're right there on that forum. But, and then so you would go to that and, Zeo's the way to go. And I'm not saying it is or it isn't, right, but it's very passe. It's very passe.
Listen, it's all of the systems work. We've talked about this before. I think they work because it makes the reef keeper pay attention in a consistent kind of way. So I don't think it matters what philosophy, as long as you're following a philosophy. So Zeo is fine. Just because it doesn't make sense to me. I mean, it makes sense, but just because I think it's unnecessary. that's fine for me, and it's fine for you if you love Zeo or these other ones that I'm not mentioning by name.
And we've touched on this before too. If you go, well, I kind of do Zeovit, but I also do Berlin method, and I also add aminos. Oh, yeah, and I also do moonshine. But it's like, but I'm having a problem.
Yeah, I can't help you. PolypLab that does whatever a PolypLab can. Swings a polyp any size. Can't you see? Just like flies. Look out.
Here comes the PolypLab.
Powering everything. I want to talk about the Genesis block this week.
Oh, I love those.
And the reason I want to talk about it is because one of our prime beefers is setting up a new tank and wants to inoculate it with stuff and asked me if I would send them one of these from my system that is covered with coralline algae without anything else on it. And so I shipped him one because why not? So now he's got all the goo that's in my tank and all the coralline from my tank in his tank.
See, this is crazy because I'm not trying to purposely make anyone mad, but there's all the bottles of bacteria. Get one of those, put it in your sump. You know someone that's setting up a new reef tank. I promise you that is 1,000 times more effective than any bottle of stuff that may or may not be alive in there.
And I shipped it, I shipped it like it was a fish or a coral. So it wasn't cheap to ship because we shipped it overnight or something like that. Packed it in oxygen and away it goes. Freaking great. This will not break during shipping. It's not frangible. It's not like Ben's little fontanelle. It's stiff. Yeah. So I like it. I like it. It's and if it's got coralline all over it, then you're hitting
double bonus.
Double bonus. So PolypLab, our friends at PolypLab, check them out wherever good PolypLab stuff is sold. Sold.
Scald.
That's a PolypLabian for sold.
Yes, it's a different language.
PolypLab.
Thanks,
PolypLab. We like being powered by you. Hey, on that note, we started a new channel on the Discord. It's called Instead of Facebook. And so what you do, this is the members area.
This is smart.
What you do is you take so like you're in a Facebook group and somebody says something crazy and you write out your response, right? And then you take a screenshot of what they said and your response, and then you delete your response, and then you come to the Instead of Facebook channel and you post it there. So people in the Discord who are not the general public, right? So they're there to
self-selected.
Yeah, they're there and they will say, wow, yeah, that's crazy. And good thing you didn't post that. Or they'll say, your reasoning is wrong. Let's have an interesting discussion. But I find that if I do that instead, if I post it on Facebook, then I'm ultimately going to have an experience that leaves me feeling icky. Because we tend to get, those discussions tend to get personal and nasty and not staying on track and no one really cares. Or, if you go, it's like, can you keep clownfish in fresh water? And you write, well, like for 45 minutes. And then somebody writes, no, you asshole. Of course you can. I had somebody who, and then you just want to die, right? So instead, you post your response and you put it on this channel, and then you feel like you've said what you wanted to say, but you really haven't. And you don't have to fight with anybody.
It's like a digital version of writing an angry, digital, but I just was thinking email. Write an angry email and then and delete it. I was thinking of like back in the day. That's how old I am. When you write using a quill, a feather, and ink, and you write an angry letter to your magistrate, and then and you get it all out, and then you crumple it up and throw it away. It is good to get that out, but you probably don't need that bull crap out there.
Right. So now you still get to talk about it.
Well, because constructive conversations can come from it.
Right. But you're not just engaging with random people who often tend to make you crazy, and they're dealing with blood and feces.
Yeah.
All right, let's do this. Ask Reef Beef.
Yeah, baby.
This is from Adam. Adam, who was here in the Secret Home Lab a little bit ago.
Sweet.
Hey guys, I've been battling some hair algae that just won't quit. I believe it to be some species. He spelled it right, but I don't care. The tank inhabitants are a gold line rabbitfish, a scribbled rabbitfish, tuxedo urchins, about 16 of them, emerald crabs, hermit crabs, snails, a bunch of tangs, like a bunch of tangs, starry blended conchs, a sea hare. Nothing will eat it. This algae will boom and bust. The coral is pissed and the tank looks gross. This has been going on for a year. Manual removal is fine, but the stuff keeps coming. Nitrate is constantly at 0, and PO4 is about 0.2 to 0.3. Fluke is a last resort in a 400-gallon system, but I'll do it if I have to. Next step is to scrub with the brush and see if I can remove it from the rock, but I am sure that no matter how much I scrub it, it will find its way back. What do y'all think?
So I've been through this before with client tanks. I have one right now that's in the middle of stuff like this, and all I need is a very patient client in that situation. And I try out he has some of the stuff. Now, this is a gold member of our Discord, so I know his tank well. I know him and everything like this. And this is a very frustrating hair algae problem. And I know, like, I don't know the chemicals involved, but it seems like whenever you have a raging hair algae problem, I know they put out some sort of chemicals because the corals always seem to be pissed off, even if they're sort of away from it. But, so I know if he defeats this, Richard, you may or may not agree on this, but this is one of these cases where I would probably tell him, go ahead and do the fluconazole, try it, because and I'll tell you this too, like, I feel like telling him to scrub and pull algae is past that.
Yeah. Do we know if he's done a blackout?
But is a blackout I feel good about for cyanobacteria and some types of dinoflagellates, but for green hair algae, I think you could black it out for 2 weeks and kill everything in there.
Well, I think he's got to scrub it anyway. I mean, I would
still manually remove it for sure.
I would scrub it and put filter socks on it and put the polishing filter on it, get it out. I would change the color of the light for a while.
Really?
Change the spectrum. If he likes it blue, make it more white. If he likes it white, make it more blue.
Do you think
I would cut down?
You think it would freak the algae out?
It might. I'm Hail Marying here.
Okay.
I would shorten the photo period.
He mentioned Chad Vosson's captive raised Mespelia blue tuxedo urchins.
Yeah,
that would have been one of the first things that I would have told someone, but he has like 16 in there.
But you got to crop it down.
Yeah.
Nothing's going to eat long algae.
Yeah.
So that's why I would scrub it and get it out of there. So I'd scrub it and get it out of there and let the herbivores be able to eat it. I would also say that your nitrate should not be at 0.
No, but see, that's that thing that you and I talk about. Usually we're talking about phosphate for this. There's most certainly a shite load of nitrate in his tank, but it is currently bound up in the algae.
Well, yeah, but so who cares? I want there to be nitrate in the water for the corals, right? Because he says the corals are looking like ass.
Mm-hmm.
Did he say that, or am I making that up?
No, he said the corals, at this point, the corals could be looking mad for many different reasons. But I don't find that. I want a low nitrate, but I don't find that a zero nitrate reading has never been helpful for me.
Yeah, no, 0 is not good. That's what I would do, and then if you're super frustrated, try the fluke and see if that helps.
As far as the hand removal, his is a little tricky because he has a built in the wall tank, so he has no access to it from the front. So that makes it a little frustrating.
Yeah, you're gonna have to build a tool, build a brush on a stick, and put a mirror outside the front of the tank that you can see.
Yeah.
Or have somebody stand outside and direct you.
I was telling him at one time, get like a snorkel mask and like really, get in there to where you can do that method we've talked about before with a smallish hose and that pinch and pull, and just stay on it, pinch and pull it, you're removing.
Yeah. I would just freaking brush it. I wouldn't even try to pick it off. And I would let, the filter this is one time when I'm going to recommend a filter sock, and let the filter sock or polishing filter suck all that stuff up.
Yeah. At first I was thinking I would sort of hate to like, hit it with like a nylon brush or something, because I feel like just pinching it with that hose would maybe get less crap out into the water, but I don't know.
But whenever I've done it, the crap gets taken out of the water if you have a filter and filter sock going.
When I would also, obviously too, I would also follow these up with small water changes, and more specifically, I'd like to see like wet skimming used after this.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just back to the same thing. If you got a lot of algae, you got to knock it back so the herbivores can do their job.
Yeah, when it's that long, obnoxious algae, like I don't find that much of any, and it's so weird. Like I've solved this stuff all the time in clients' aquariums. Like I said, I have one persistent case right now, but until you knock it down, it's so weird. I had this 600-gallon insanity, would just make a hobbyist cry, filled with like 4-inch long hair algae everywhere. And I asked the guy, hey, be patient, give me a few months and I can solve this. And he did. But until it got knocked down, then it was weird. It got knocked down. Now it's one of the most pristine aquariums that I have out there. But because now it's like down, and I still have, there's a lot of herbivores, and I still make sure that they're well fed besides that, but it's a lot of busy snails, a lot of busy fish. And it just,
and this is not going to be easy. You got to phase change the coral back.
Yeah.
I mean, the tank back to a coral dominated system, because now it's an algae dominated system, and algae is way better at life than coral. So you're in for a fight. Yeah. Scrub and brush. Yeah. Adam, tell us what happened. Tell us what's going on. We want to know.
Or invite us over. Just be sure you don't have blood and feces all over your floor.
Yeah. Ben will do that for $35.
$35. I'll come be your buddy.
Hey, beefers. Hey, if you've gotten this far in the episode, and you enjoyed what you're listening to, if either you didn't get this far, well, you're not hearing it. If you didn't get this far, if you're not enjoying it, why are you still listening? So I'm going to assume that you enjoyed it and you got this far. Why not become a member? We used to do buy us a coffee. I think we're still doing it for coffee. It's like $8. It helps us just keep the lights on and buying all the equipment we need to do to keep doing the show, and other expenses and things like that. And that makes us feel like it's the best metric we have for knowing if we're doing a good job or not. So you can do that. And becoming a member gets you access to some interesting things and access to the Discord. And on the Discord, it's basically where Ben and I are blogging. It's where we're talking about what we're doing. We're not really talking on Facebook or anywhere that much more. We're not blogging anywhere. We're just, this is where we talk about our stuff. And we like it because it's a self-selected group of people who want to be there. And we figure that little bit of jingle that you pay to have access to that means you're probably not a jackass. Because if you're a jackass, you just go be a jackass somewhere for free. And if you're paying the jingle and you come in and being a jackass, we're going to kick you out because we don't want jackasses around. So there's a bunch of interesting people who are doing a bunch of interesting things, and they're talking about it there. There's the free section too. Check it out. You get a feel for how it's going. Ben and I are there sometimes. But in the members area is where the fun happens, we think. Or just throw us some jingle and don't ever go to the Discord because you hate Discord. Totally fine. Or don't throw us any jingle. Just live your miserly, horrible, Scroogey life where you listen to things you hate all the way till the end out of principle.
Sadomasochistic.
And to everyone who's been a member or is going to be a member or anything who's supported us anyway, we really appreciate it. Thank you for helping us grow into what we become. We dig it and we're enjoying it. And we love you and we love life. Okay, the last thing I want to talk about with you is we've been talking for a long time about peristaltic pumps. We've been talking about using a bit of silicone tubing and connecting that to your other tubing. So, because it's easier to disconnect and connect. You, the other day, bought some silicone tubing and you're just using silicone tubing now. You said, forget it. I'll just use the silicone tubing. And I am often still going to the RO tubing. And you said something in a text to me as like, this is the best way, right? And whenever someone says that, I go, I hate the best way. You can't say that. Let's fight. But I figured out, I think, what the difference between you and me is. I am beautiful and smart, and you are a fucking meth-headed hippie. No.
You wound me, sir.
I do. I do.
It's the most simplistic way.
Well, but let me ask you this, Bucket Man. How long is your run of tubing?
80,000 leagues.
That's a lie. No, really. How long is your tubing runs?
It depends on each aquarium. I would pick the example of a 600-gallon aquarium where the intake, because the 5-gallon container of Ultra Reef sits on the floor underneath it, but it's probably 3 feet down to it, and then it pumps 4 feet over.
Yeah, I'm running like 50, 60 feet.
Oh, well, okay. But I mean, so in RO tubing is cheap as hell.
Yeah, and it's not even that. My worry is for kinking. Right? And my worry about not kinking, we had getting pinched. I worried about getting pinched off, like bloody feces.
Well, here's the difference between you and me. To throw it back at you is because I would have that run of silicone tubing, like I would have some sort of something all along the path, some sort of fastener to keep it.
It's got to be a wide fastener. You can't put a screw because the weight of a single point of the water on each side will pull it and eventually pinch off. Yeah, it'll end up pinching off the tubing. That's my worry. So this is wonderful that we actually agree, but we're talking about different we have different background assumptions about what's going on.
Honestly, I agree with you though. For your situation, I would stay with RO tubing because it won't droop like that.
So for what I just did on the spawning system this week, I did this.
Speed fitting to a barb.
I did speed fitting. So on the dose, you can, with your method, you can just not modify the dose head at all, right?
Yeah, I just push this silicone to me. I hate vinyl.
And the silicone grabs really well on that little gray nipple. We'll put a picture here. You have a picture you can send it. I like the speed fittings because it means that I can change stuff around really quickly. Whatever.
Well, wait, are you still going with that one where you screw the speed fitting onto there?
Yeah.
Are you going with my modified method that I unveiled at Reef Stock?
No, I'm still using the speed fitting.
Okay.
Because I own those fittings now, and so it takes 35 seconds for me to move them over, and I want them all to be the same because I've got like 15 dose heads running around, right?
But also fuck Ben.
Yeah, well, mostly fuck Ben. Yeah. So this is what I do. It's
oh my God. I can't stand that, Richard.
Why?
Because call me crazy, but right there where the silicone meets the RO tubing, yeah.
That took a lot to pull it off.
I know, and call me crazy because it'll still cost you like $20 more. But I want that speed fitting coupling and then that barb to stem and then pushing that. I get it. It is a little crazy, but
yeah, I think it don't matter. But anyway, so all it is this, the RO tubing goes into the dose, into the speed fitting on the dose, and then it's all this. And I am not seeing it be too crazy. It's not kinking yet where I'm looking at it. So it depends on the application. So
and a dose has zero problem pushing or pulling 60 feet.
Yeah, no problem.
That's pretty cool.
No problem. They are kind of loud though, but you can schedule it to do most of the heavy lifting when you're not home. And there it goes right now.
Dude, I loved that the last time we were at your house because you had the doses attached to the underneath the floorboards of the house. So you knew where the sound was coming from. You're like, oh, that's the ATO.
Yeah.
Okay, the caulk washer's dosing.
Yeah.
Okay. Meanwhile, your wife is like,
yeah. I took them off the joists, and now you don't hear them as much. This one's right in the lab here, so you can totally hear it. Okay. I thought about putting it outside or in the laundry room, but it's only going to be here for a couple of months.
Yeah.
So what's the takeaway from that? There's lots of ways to do tubing. There's no right way or the wrong way. Just like there's no best pump. There's just different pumps. There's just different ways to go. And the more you do this, the more you learn different approaches for different applications. And I think that's super cool.
No, that is funny. And I concede to you on that because now I think about it when I say, this is the best way. Now you got me thinking about it. I'm like, the best way for what? It's not the best way for every.
Right.
It's a great way for simplified short runs, but that's not every scenario.
Right. It's the background assumptions. That's great. That's why when people say this is the best, it's like, it's the best for the thing you did with it. Yeah. It's not the best. You just like it. Stop making it more than it fucking is. Why does it have to be the best? It's just a way you like. You know what? I did some plumbing on here too. Some hard plumbing on this system. Guess which glue I used?
Some shit. Some purple bullshit or some red hot and blue bullcrap.
Yes, you know why? Because fuck you. That's what. Because fuck
you. I hate it.
I know. I was at the store and here they had what's Fusion. The one you like? Here they had Fusion and they had Christie's Red Hot Blue.
Yeah.
And I went, I'm doing the Red Hot Blue, motherfucker.
If they sold one that was called Fuck Bin, you would use that.
And I also left the price tags on it.
Great. And you also turned it to where all the lettering on there is facing you. So you and all your company can enjoy seeing that.
Yeah. Yeah. Because, when people come into this fucking true life, stupid mad scientist lab in my house, they expect it to be beautiful.
Yeah. And you just want to shock them into submission.
This is about the monster, not about how we make the monster. Okay.
Yes.
Awesome, man. Hey, I want to thank the Beefers for making this all possible. I want to thank our sponsors, saltwateraquarium.com, Champion Lighting Supply, and PolypLab for powering us. I want to thank Patrick Carter, who apparently in a previous episode I called Lisa Carter. And I want to thank my man above,
Satan.
It's yes, Satan above for making everything work out the way it is. I want to thank Snowman and our new snow person that I think is coming soon to help us out.
Ember.
And we'll see you on the Discord or in the comments here or wherever. Until next time, keep it beefy and cheesy because cheesy beef is better than blood and feces.
Hey, Richard.
Benjamin.
Oh, well, hold on. First of all, sorry, Snowman. Hard pause there. But what did you grab?
Stuff for the ads.
But which one? Like multiple things?
We do the same order all the time. So go. Come on, man. Get with it. What the fuck? It's not
PolypLab.
even.
PolypLab does
No,
whatever.
no.
Not PolypLab.
We do.
Oh no,
We
no.
do that. What is
Saltwater
wrong?
aquariums.
Stop.
Okay, where's the video?
I don't know. Sounds like a you problem.
Yeah. Hey man, is that Freedom Rock? Turn it up.
Turn it up. We're old and stupid.
Yeah.
Is it recording? Are we recording?
Yeah, I think you did it right off of the top, motherfucker.
Oh, good. It says recording. Do 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 do. You know, people think that this is a wig, but this is my real hair. I wear a wig for every other show.
You look like a Franciscan friar.
I'm in a show called Satan's Alley, a movie called Satan's Alley with Topher and yeah, that's from Tropic Thunder. I just watched that the other day.
Simple Jack.
So
I need to watch that again.
The Jack Black is hilarious in that movie. And the funniest part to me is when they throw the little kid. Throwing a little kid, always funny to me.
I love Tom Cruise in that movie.
Oh, a nutless monkey could do your job. What did he say about that? He said, I wanna have fat hands.
Yeah.
And dance. That's what he told Ben Stiller.
Yes.
Anyway, that's like
I've been doing this for a long time. I have never encountered blood and feces all over the floor.
Not together, separately.
Separate, yes.
Yeah. Well, my story is going to be so nothing.
Sorry.
In compare. Yeah. Wow. Okay.
I overplayed it.
You did not overplay it. It's just hard to follow.
Yeah, no.
Which is great.
That's another potential name of the episode, Hot and Swollen.
Hot and Swollen. I'll write that down.
I think I rented that a couple nights ago.
Yeah, I think I was in that.
That's why I rented it.
My house was in it at least.
Richard is just leaving the set. He is going into, actually, he has a utility room back behind there. And that's where he is off to. But, you know, and here he comes. He's the troll under the bridge. He's the creepy old troll who lives under the bridge.